Chris, you write, direct, act, not always at the same time, I imagine.
No, no, I did it once, and it's probably the only time I will do it. It's just a lot of hats to wear, and I've had friends ask me, "What's ultimately what do you want to do?" And writing and acting is that. I love both of them equally. I will never shy away from directing. If you or someone was like, "Hey, can you come on in and direct an episode of this web series or this short?" I would, if I like the script and if I think I am right for it, I will definitely do it. But to do all three is very challenging, and I love challenging myself, but I know that something hurt that specific project because I did all three. And writing is very personal by yourself or with someone else, but directing and acting at the same time, it's tough, in my opinion. And I think I pulled it off well, but I think the project lacked something because I did both. So I
Hmm.
think if I want that project to become a feature, I would want to find a director. Um, and moving forward for other like short films, if I really want to focus on acting, I have to find a director. But like my buddy wrote a script that he wants to be done, and I'm like, you know what, maybe I'll just direct it and see how that goes and go from there. So
Okay. And as far as actor, I mean, you've worked with other directors before.
yes.
Um, Directors always have um, different approaches,
Hmm.
different intensities. Um, you don't have to name names, but what works for you.
Um, well, I can name some, and I don't think they would be upset. Honestly, they're all local here in Jersey, whether it be South or Central. You being one, you've directed me in, I believe, one comedic film.
Yeah, the little improv skit,
Yeah,
throwing Halloween.
and it's one of my favorites I've done because when it's improv, you're very like just it's very on the spot, like let's come up with stuff. So it's very much like screenwriting or something like that. So that was a lot of fun. With my friend Jess Mealy, our friend Jess Mealy, I've been in three films for her, and they were all supporting characters. One was like a 14-hour day. That was interesting. The other two were very small roles where I went in for a half day, and watching her direct was very interesting because she just like knows, and every director I've worked with, they just know so much of what they want. It's just interesting to see it from the opposite side of the camera. Like she just know, like she just she would stop me mid monologue and be like, "No, I need you to do it this way. I need you to do it that way." And excuse me, sorry. It was just interesting to kind of see it because when you have these production meetings or these read throughs, they're very much like that. But when you're on set, it's like, no, we need to get this done. There's a time crunch. Like it needs to be very like da 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 da, and it makes you work harder. And you also don't want. It's essentially for me, it's like being on a job interview. And I know that might sound silly, but you come in, you perform a role, you do well, you're going to get asked to be in another movie by them, and that's kind of what it was. I did this movie about a Christmas holiday movie where I played this curmudgeon of a character who hates retail and who hates his life. And she loved it so much. She's like, I want to bring you back in for this, bring you back in for that. So there. And then I acted in another film, totally 360 different style. It was the movie's called Slow Burn. You could find it on Vimeo, um, from Basement Stair Productions, and that was a director, a camera operator, a sound operator, and one other person who was the director's father. And it was just the two actors, which was myself and the director, who wrote, direct, and acted. And it was the most intense type of filming I've ever. We filmed on and off for a year, and we filmed in the 90-degree weather of August. We filmed in the weather of January at 4 in the morning, where it's 7 degrees. It was just crazy, crazy, crazy. and I was pushed to limits that I never ever were pushed to before.
Hmm.
But I think it made me really realize I love acting and I want to pursue it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, to go through something like that and to want to do it again,
Yeah.
you know, and you never know. You never know if it's going to be a good thing, if it's going
You
to be a
don't.
bad thing. That's kind of what's cool about going to set, especially for me. Like, you're never going to get the same day twice.
No.
You know, it could be
No. No.
super, super stressful in a good way. It could be super, super stressful in a bad way.
Now, I know I keep bringing it up and I apologize. It's just, it is the last project I did, but like little did she know, to me, you could say it wasn't or whatever, but to me they were both extremely relaxed days, but the first day was an early start,
Mm.
and the first day we were moving from like 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. from 6 a.m. to like 10:30 a.m. we were but then the rest of the day was a little more relaxed, and I think those 2 days were very similar because we had some of the same people on set. But as you were saying, like I interned on a feature film for school, and you did not know what you were going to get once you stepped through the door. Good, bad, ugly, and that's you really have to have a lot of like self control for that because some of these films can drive you up a wall, and you could be like, I'm never doing this again. But once the film is over and you realize you go back to your normal life, you're like, I missed this completely.
Sure. Yeah, set life is interesting, especially on
Hmm.
indie films, because
Yeah.
hey, we don't do it every day. You know, it's an escape, but it's a stressful. My chair. It's a stressful escape, but it's I feel like it's a good kind of stress if you want it to be.
Yeah.
It depends how you handle it, and you know, talking about set life and stress and like you said, all right, so you had an early start. Um, what do you do to not blow everything you've got early and keep up with stamina the rest of the day? Is there any tips
Uh,
you have for that, or any way you've handled it, or you've handled it poorly and would want to do better?
I guess just from being on set in general as an actor, director, or
Yeah, just set life, anything.
well, for an actor, have you? Because you've never acted, right?
We don't
because
talk about when I acted.
oh, okay, all right, sorry. I just want to know if you want to compare it because for me, like with acting, and I know it sounds so like it's going to sound whatever, but like you're there's a lot of waiting when you're an actor. Like
Okay,
there is a
yeah.
lot of waiting on set, especially if things have to be set up. Now, I'm not saying there's nothing to do on set, but there's just a lot of waiting around. So as an actor, when you're waiting, you can go over your lines. But if you're an if you're an actor and you're waiting for a scene that's going to be extremely intense, that's when you have to kind of get your stamina up and you have to get hyped up. But then, like, it's really tough to come back down from that. As a director, I know you can speak from this because you direct. um, I think you're just kind of like, for me, I'm just pushing through. I'm worried about time for the sake of not going over time, but I'm not like, oh my God, I've been on set since 7 a.m. and it's already 4 p.m. I can't even keep my eyes open. If you're a director or if you're a DP, like if you're a major key in the production, I think time doesn't matter, and I think you just push through. Like I
Yeah.
think something goes in your head, and I think athletes have it. I think actors have it, and entertainers have it. You just have to push through and get it done, because if you don't, you don't know if you are promised another day with all of these people on set.
So would you
So
say? Go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
So I was gonna say, it sounds like you would describe acting as an anaerobic sport with lots of starts and stops, and like
Yeah,
football.
yes, exactly like football.
And
It's a
a
lot of bursts of
director is a
energy.
little more aerobic, with you have to continue, and you know there's almost no slowing down.
Yeah.
The only thing I could speak to as a director is the only time you have to slow down is you make decisions all day.
Hmm.
Someone asks you, how do you want this shot, where do you want this light, all kinds of questions. all
Yeah.
kinds of questions, and you have to field those. And the only time when those questions and decision making stops is while you're rolling. Unless you're actively directing someone and you're gonna say shoot it without sound or anything later. I typically don't direct over when people are speaking, but I've seen certain directors do for a certain result. Um, so that's a point where the director can kind of recharge a little bit. You're watching
Yeah.
something, and you're still making decisions in your head. Like, I like the way this was. I didn't like the way this was. Maybe we could tweak this. So it's a bit of a there are rest cycles in different places, and it's funny that
Exactly.
a director and actor would be opposite in that
Yeah.
respect. You're performing, I'm analyzing. Then when we call cut, the director is decision making, and the actor, probably also decision making, but in a more passive sense.
Hmm. But also too, if you're not like, so if I'm acting for you
Hmm.
and it's your project, I'm, and every actor asks this, and I think it might drive directors nuts, but like, was that good? Was that a good take?
Yeah.
Was that good from me? Like I said, you just want to make sure that you are portraying their character, their story the way they want to. They casted you for a reason. So right then and there, they're already on your side. But when you're on set, you just want to you just want that reassurance as an actor. Okay, I'm going to ask. I'm probably going to come off conceited, but I just want to make sure that I was good. Every time I've directed something, every actor has asked me. Every actor has asked me, how was that? There's different scales to it.
Hmm.
There's different levels to it, but every actor has asked me, how you doing? Was I good? Was I good?
And how do you answer those questions as a director?
It You have to answer them honestly. And
Yeah.
I'm not. And if they did it bad, you never ever from coming from me, I will never ever ever tell someone, God, that was awful. I might say it while I'm looking at dailies or I'm looking at footage or I'm editing. I'm like, God, that was terrible. I'll say it to myself honestly, but I will. It is my job to look at that footage when all said and done, and there not be a bad take because you have to give them correct notes. So there's been times like for the one dinner scene in Little Did She Know, I pulled the lead actress Katie Maluski aside and I told her, like, this is, if you want to break down, if you want to show, if you want to cry, like, this is your time to show me what you got, and I know you got this, so do it. And I've had all those little pep talks with them and all that. But your job as a director too is to still install the confidence in the actors who are clearly unconfident, and you can tell by that. And all actors are. But the more actors ask you, "Was that good? Was that good? Was that good?" They're very self-conscious about themselves.
It's
It's the actors that don't ask as much that might know that they're good, or that, quite frankly, they don't worry about that.
it's a fine line too, because you need the actor to be confident. You don't want them thinking, "Oh, I have to please this person. I'm not good enough." You can't do that. And
Yeah.
a lot of times, actors, they might do a performance that wasn't quite what you wanted. It doesn't mean that they're a bad actor.
No.
Any actors that are watching this, it's there's a lot that can go wrong with a scene. If you're a
Yeah.
director, um, if you're watching the monitor, there's even more that could go wrong because you're watching the framing, you're watching the light, you're watching everything in the background. If you have to do a take again, it doesn't mean that it was the actor's fault
And
or
that's, yeah,
anything
yeah.
like that. And at the same
And
time, um, if there's something that's not working, and I feel like it would take more than like a word or two, I'll always pull an actor aside,
mhm.
and it is not that they're doing a bad job or anything like that of that sort. It's more that I want the two of us to get on the same page in a
Share a
certain
moment.
respect.
Yep.
Right, yeah, to really, I'll often just pull somebody aside, and if I if it's not a direction like um, there. All right, so emotion. When we're talking emotion,
Yeah.
it can be difficult to pull someone aside if the actor is in that headspace. So as a director, you have to really decide: do I want to be verbose with this, or is there something that I can like give a slight adjustment, like a word or two that's actionable?
Yeah.
Because you definitely don't want to pull somebody aside and have them lose their focus, or especially when someone's in an emotional spot, they
Hmm.
could be bringing it from an actual place that they have been. So you want to show the truth of that in a way that it makes sense to the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, no, you're completely right, and I think pulling actors aside should happen before the scene starts, the more intense scene starts, because, like you said, you don't want to pull them out from that moment, because some actors are method. I haven't gotten there to that level yet. And I may never get to that level, but I think there's all different types of being method. You know,
Mm.
I think if you feel like you're in this moment and it doesn't feel surreal to you or it doesn't feel real to you, then you might be method and you might be in a different place or whatever. But um, it's like you said, you just have to just as a director, you have to be on point with so many different things, and just you have to be able to read your cast well. And I think that's all goes into casting, like I said before.
Now, let me ask you, um, when you were directing and acting at the same time,
Hmm.
obviously you need to get yourself to a certain place, and hopefully you know how to emote and you give yourself what you want. But how do you manage doing that at the same time, in addition to telling directing someone else in the scene?
So I think, and I don't know what this would fall under, but I think rehearsing is a big process, big part of that. Um, I rehearsed for 7 hours with my one day with the cast of some of my films, and I think you have to build that relationship there. Now, if you are a writer, director, actor, and you're writing a significant role for yourself, you need to know that character better than you know yourself.
Hmm.
You need to know them better than you know yourself before you go into day one of shooting. You have to. So for Little Did She Know, the character I played, Cameron, I knew who he was from the get go. I knew how he would react to every little thing. I knew the type of brother he was, son, I just boyfriend, like you just knew him, like you knew who he was. And I think once I was able to know that, I was able to kind of just tap in and out of that in each scene. So you're able to focus on, all right, this is how this character would portray this. If you're writing characters who are parents, you take a little bit from your mother, your father, other people's parents. Like you just take a little bit of that and you add into that. But if to prepare yourself to, like Kevin Smith, he plays Silent Bob. He's standing around there silent, facial expressions, but he I don't know how much he has to focus on. His focus is more for the other actors.
Hmm.
And Kevin Smith's a big one, like who's a writer, director, actor as well.
Sure.
But for me per se, like I need to know the character I'm playing in and out before I know like before I need to know him as just as I need to know that character just as well as I know myself, and I need to conquer that before I move forward. Because if I don't, I'm going to be trying to be like, oh, what would Cameron or what would this character say here? Blah, blah. You need to know that. You need to know that right away.
So a lot of prep
Yes.
beforehand on
Oh,
that front.
and I'm Mr. Prep OCD. I want to, I want to film this. I wanted to film this stuff yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm Mr. I need to get stuff done. And there are ebbs and flows in art and filmmaking where your overnight success might take 12 years, or like this film to get made might take 7 extra months. So in that time, be ready, but also prepare yourself for the film to possibly happen tomorrow. But like, just prepare yourself and make sure your cast and your actors are prepared, because not for nothing, I've never, and I'm not just saying this, I've never worked with a shitty actor before. Excuse my language. I've never directed an actor who was bad. I really haven't. I can confidently say that they've all focused, and and I love to see it, because it's not Hollywood filmmaking, it's indie filmmaking. They're not getting paid as much as Robert Downey Jr. or Brad Pitt. So that for them to come to your set for your project very well prepared and well equipped, that should give you the confidence as a producer or director right there, that they give a crap about what you're making. And I think everyone told me about my latest project. They could see I cared about it, so they wanted to work just as hard. So if you show that you care, like, other people are going to care. And I think that's at the I guess, the meat and bones of it all, or whatever you want to call it. That's the most important thing, is to make sure you pick people who care. Like you mentioned before, in college, people weren't on your side, and it just kind of sucked.
Prepare, prepare, prepare.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Christopher Orangeo is a North Jersey filmmaker. Between North and Central, right? Would you say?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so
Depends on who you're asking in New Jersey.
Right, all right, yeah, I know that game. Where can he runs Cosmic Stew Productions, and where can we view your stuff?
You can just go to YouTube and go type in Christopher Orangeo. I don't have any. Haven't made a Cosmic Stew page just yet. But yeah, just type in Christopher Orangeo. You should see my YouTube page there. I have projects from college. I have Little Did She Know up there. I have behind the scenes of Little Did She Know, where Andrew's featured in. And my next few projects will be going under that page. So yeah. And as for any other projects I might be in, check out FroVideo, check out This Jess, check out Basement Stair Productions. I'm in those films I mentioned in previous videos and whatnot.
And I'll have links to those in the description. So, Chris, thank you for so much for going indie depth with us.
Oh man, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. I love talking about this stuff. I could talk about it for hours. So,
thanks again, Christopher Orangeo, director, actor, writer.
thank
Peace
you
out.
guys.